The house is quiet tonight. I can hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the soft creak of the wooden floors beneath my feet. It's the kind of silence that feels safe, like it belongs, but it's deceiving. I know that now my life had been ordinary routine. A steady pulse of predictability. Every night we'd sit down for dinner, a plate of something simple, but made with care. Spaghetti maybe, or chicken with vegetables. We would laugh about small things. The way the cat scratched at the door when he wanted to be let outside. How Sophie, my wife, never liked the sound of the rain hitting the window. At night we were content. I was content. Our house was a cozy, little 3-bedroom near the edge of town, nothing too fancy. The living room smelled like old books, and the lavender-scented candle she always insisted on lighting after dinner. There was a warm familiarity in the way the furniture was arranged, like everything had its place, just as it should be. Just as it had been for the last 7 years. I never had any reason to suspect anything was wrong. But the first time I noticed something off, something I couldn't quite place, was a few months ago. It wasn't a major thing, not at first. Sophie had started to pick up her phone more often, glancing at it in a way that felt guarded. Her messages, once so open and transparent, were now hidden away. And she would leave the room, step into the other room to take a call, her tone lower, more hushed than before. I didn't want to believe it. She'd always been the woman who'd leave her phone unlocked, whose passwords I could guess, because she didn't think anything was worth hiding. But this was different. Then came the nights when she'd come to bed late. The weight of her absence in the sheets made my chest ache with a cold, unfamiliar loneliness. When I asked her where she'd been, her answer was always the same: just out with the girls, or work ran late. But the words tasted like ash in my mouth. There was no fire behind them. I still couldn't believe it. One night I came home from work a little earlier than usual. I had no particular reason, just a gut feeling, a sense of urgency I couldn't explain. I walked through the front door, hearing the usual silence. It was odd. Sophie's car was in the driveway, but there was no sound coming from the house. No laughter. No music playing from the kitchen like usual. I slipped off my shoes and padded softly into the living room, my mind already buzzing with a low, uncomfortable hum. And there it was, her phone left on the coffee table, face up. A notification flashed on the screen. Can't wait for tonight? My heart clenched. I didn't need to read the rest. I knew. I walked over, picked up the phone with trembling hands, and unlocked it with the code I had always known. There in plain sight was a conversation. I miss you. I miss you more, baby. We'll be together soon. Just wait a little longer. I can't wait. We'll make it worth the wait. It hit me like a physical blow to the chest. The realization wasn't a clean cut. It was messy. Confusing. It made my insides twist as if I'd eaten something foul. I sat down slowly, trying to catch my breath, my fingers still gripping her phone like a lifeline. Sophie had always been the last person I would ever suspect. The woman I had married, the woman who promised me forever, had betrayed me. And she hadn't even tried to hide it. But there was more. A part of me didn't want to believe it. So I kept searching, and I found it. The name: Dan, and the hotel. The same one we'd stayed at on our anniversary. The same one she'd promised never to return without me. I could feel my world unraveling thread by thread, as I realized the depth of her betrayal. The confrontation came a week later. It wasn't planned. I hadn't wanted to do it this way. But my heart was raw, and my mind was a tangled mess of rage and sorrow. I couldn't pretend anymore. I knew she was at the hotel. I had followed her quietly from the moment she left. I had seen her slip into the lobby with him, Dan. And the look on her face, the way she smiled at him, touched his arm, was enough to send my pulse pounding in my ears. The doors to the hotel room were barely closed. When I made my move, I stood outside their door for a long moment, fists clenched, fighting the overwhelming urge to knock, to demand answers. But no, I wasn't going to beg her for the truth. I wasn't going to grovel. Instead, I did something else. I called the front desk. "I'd like to send a gift to a guest in room 404. It's for Mrs. Sophie Larkin," I said, my voice cold, controlled. "A gift, sir." "What kind of gift?" the receptionist asked. "A single rose," I replied. Just a single rose delivered to her room with a note. The note I included was simple, but it carried every ounce of my rage, my heartbreak, and my resolve. It read, "I hope you enjoy this rose. It's the only thing that'll be left of our love when I'm done with you." I knew she'd read it before Don did. I could picture her face turning pale as she read the words, panic setting in. She would have known, in that moment, that everything was falling apart. The facade she built with him was coming crashing down. I didn't just want to ruin her, I wanted to break her. And then I waited. The next few days were a whirlwind. Sophie's calls came pleading, desperate, crying. She begged me to understand, to forgive her, to let it all go. But there was no going back. Not now. I had prepared for this moment. I knew the steps. I had been waiting for it. The first step of my revenge was simple. I exposed her affair to Dan's wife. I knew everything about him, where he worked, where his family lived, every detail I could find. I made sure his wife knew everything. I sent her copies of the messages Sophie and Dan had shared, images of their time together in that hotel room. Then I watched as his life crumbled. His reputation, his job, his family, they all slipped through his fingers like sand. It wasn't just about hurting him. It was about watching the consequences of their actions unfold the way the truth could tear down everything they had built. As for Sophie, she begged. She cried. But I knew that she wasn't the woman I had married anymore. She was a stranger, someone I no longer recognized. In the end, I left her. It wasn't as satisfying as I had imagined. I had taken everything from her, but in the silence of my own apartment, I realized that I had lost something too. Not just her, but myself. Some betrayals don't break us. They build us into something stronger. I had destroyed their lives, but in the process, I'd built a new one for myself. One without them. One where I wasn't weak, where I wasn't the fool who believed in forever. The phone call came a month later. Sophie broke in her voice, barely a whisper. "I don't know who I am anymore. Please help me, but I wasn't that man anymore. I had moved on, built something from the ashes of my old life. She was just a memory now. One that would never be enough to bring me back." As I ended the call, I realized something else. The revenge wasn't just about destroying them, it was about reclaiming myself. It was justice. And justice, I had learned, could be a cold, merciless thing. Like this story, if you think justice was served. Subscribe for more stories of betrayal and revenge.